Since 15 Minutes of Fact came into existence in response to the news coverage being given the Occupy Wall Street movement, its purpose has been to give voice to the voiceless and to enable people who struggle to get press coverage to have a soapbox, however modest. Today's guest turns that premise upside down. Her name is Cindy Sheehan. She is not voiceless, and she has her own soapbox, literally. Her internet radio show is called Cindy Sheehan's Soapbox and can be found at cindysheehansoapbox.com. Hers has become almost a household name, and she a burr under the saddle for ex-President George Bush. When she camped outside the Bush Ranch in 2005 to protest the war in Iraq and the tragic and needless loss of her son's life, U.S. Army Specialist Casey Sheehan. Her stubborn resolve to get answers from Bush drew national attention and set her on the path of speaking out against that war and for peace. It could be occupied that she was the first occupier, and that she went where she wasn't welcomed, pitched her tent without permission, and spoke truth to power. This became Camp Casey and attracted national attention both to herself and to her anti-war cause. And since those beginnings, she's found herself arrested many times, harassed by authorities many times, spoken at countless political and activist rallies, and somehow found the time to author books. So fast forward today, and we find Cindy is the vice presidential candidate of the Peace and Freedom Party, along with her running partner for president of the United States, Roseanne Barr. Cindy's on the phone with us from her home in Northern California, and we welcome her to the show. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning. Thank you.
Well, my first question to you is to be expected, and it's a personal one. After all these years of speaking truth to power, the nights in jail cells, both open and covert intimidation, where in the world do you find the strength to keep on keeping on?
Well, I think I find it because I had a goal and I have a vision. My goal is, of course, to end the wars for empire and profit we have currently going on around the world. And it doesn't matter that we have a Democrat in office right now. He's been expanding the U.S. war of terror against the world. So that's my goal, and that hasn't been accomplished. And my vision, of course, is a world that's free from using war and violence to solve problems as a foreign policy tool. So what gives me strength is that people are being harmed and they're in harm's way every day. And I think it's like it's our responsibility as citizens of this empire to try and stop it from murdering innocent people. There's just so many, there's so many things that are attached to that. You know, the wars and the Pentagon and the empire are violating our environment. They're using resources that could be better used for peaceful means. The war economy is sucking the life out of our communities, our families. And so there's so many things that go at the end of the empire that would be such a positive advance for humankind, not just people here in the United States, but people around the world. So I'm a very goal-driven person, and I think that that's what gives me my strength and my drive is to hopefully by the time I leave this planet to be closer to my goal. I don't know if it's possible to achieve it, but like our fellow activists that have gone before us throughout the ages, I want to leave this planet a better place than I found it, and give the tools to the people that are going to come after us to keep the struggle going.
So let's relate that stamina and determination, your goals, to the race that you and Roseanne Barr are running for national office. And that's for the Peace and Freedom Party there in California and elsewhere. How many states have you and Roseanne, how many states do you find yourself on the ballot?
Okay, so that's a little bit of a tricky question that I'm going to be writing an extensive chapter in my new book. I'm writing a new book right now about my race against Nancy Pelosi in 2008 called I Left My Marbles in San Francisco. And so I'm writing this new chapter about my new campaign, and it's the campaign with Roseanne has been a huge disappointment to me. I jumped on board because I thought it was going to give me a chance to talk about something. Well, two things that are very near and dear to me, and that's peace, of course, is my first priority, and then socialist revolution. Since I've been, traveling around the world, I've been several times to Cuba, several times to Venezuela, and I've been able to see socialist revolution in action and think that it would be a wonderful thing for us here in the United States. But anyway, so I was asked to be her running mate so we could get the nomination of the Peace and Freedom Party in California. And I'm a member of the Peace and Freedom Party. It's a socialist, feminist, and environmental party. And it appears to me that she just wanted to run for president as a vanity issue. She hasn't been campaigning much. She hasn't put any energy or resources into the campaign. So I actually had to withdraw from active campaigning. And, we're only on the ballot in 3 states, California, Florida, and Colorado. So it's been a huge disappointment to me.
Well, it would have to be. I think it'd have to be a disappointment for the people that nominated you as well. I want you to know that at the outset, as a California resident at that time, I joined the Peace and Freedom Party because of the stand against the Vietnam War, and that was way back in 1968.
Right.
So putting Roseanne aside and the disappointments, what is the affinity between you and the Peace and Freedom Party, and why is it important today when regrettably, thanks to the rule that says you have to have 2% of votes to be on a ballot,
right.
What is your motivation? What can come of this?
Well, and actually the rule has changed. Another reason I was so, excited to accept the nomination is because of the historical value of the Peace and Freedom Party and its roots and its roots in peace and freedom. So it's a good name for the party.
Exactly.
So the California unbelievably passed in 2010 Proposition 14, which is an anti-democratic proposition that gives the top 2 primary winners the slots for the general election. So it doesn't matter if it's 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, or whatever, but the proposition is designed actually to kill third parties here in California. So it doesn't matter how many votes we get in November. It's by 2014 we have to register 43,000 more members of Peace and Freedom to retain our ballot status. And that's one of the reasons that the party nominated Roseanne Barr, because they thought that she would be the best one to get the message out about that. And unfortunately, that hasn't come to pass. And if the party doesn't get more proactive about this, I'm afraid that we're slowly going to disappear, which is very unfortunate.
Well, it's unfortunate to see any third party being discouraged in any fashion from competing for office, whether it be local or national. Now, I was curious about how important you think third parties are, such as the Justice Party and the Green Party, and your familiarity with them.
Well, I think that I think, and part of my book will be about this very issue. I think federal electoral politics are, broken beyond repair. And I think that reform of the electoral system, I'm an advocate for election reform. I'm an advocate for instant runoff voting, publicly financed campaigns, and all these kinds of things. But what never comes up is who we have to ask to reform, and those are the people who are in power at the very moment. And
sounds like a fruitless quest to me, and the deck is definitely stacked.
Right. So people rarely give up their power and their money. And so I'm for more of local grassroots politics. I think that you need to keep your activism. Most people need to keep their activism in their community where they live. And I think it's more important to get on your local school board or your local city council or your local board of supervisors than it is to run for a federal office where we people like us have almost zero chance of even if I won in 2008 against Pelosi, realistically, what would I have been able to do as one of 435 people? And look at Dennis Kucinich; he's been pushed out of Congress right now. So I think keeping your politics and your activism local is more important than going out in a federal way. I support the Justice Party and the Green Party, and I support any activism, whether it's political or social, against the empire. And, I just happen to think that the Peace and Freedom Party or any other kind of socialist party that isn't about reform of capitalism, but about overthrow of capitalism, I think would be a better choice. And it's just unfortunate that, the Peace and Freedom Party doesn't have a national platform to talk about that. We don't even really have a platform in California to talk about that. And so, I think
your platform.
You're from here, so you know that we could lead the way in so many positive
very much
things.
Well, given where the conversation's going, allow me to direct it to today's hub of activism, which certainly could be called local. It connects activists and protesters from a number of causes, and that's the Occupy movement itself, which, by the way, celebrated its first birthday this month. Right. What were your thoughts when the tents first went up at Zuccotti Park?
When they first went up?
Mm-hmm. And since?
Yeah. I think that the Occupy movement did a really wonderful service to the country. It started to talk about class and about the income disparity that is little known in this country. I watched the presidential debate the other day. It was very hard, but I watched it, and they always are saying middle class, middle class, middle class. Well, the middle class in this country has disappeared a long time ago with the free trade agreements and with the outsourcing and with the war economy. The United States has the widest income disparity of any so-called industrial nation in the world. So, just because we have a higher standard of living than most of the rest of the people in the world, it's not something that's talked about very often. And so I was really happy that the Occupy movement put that conversation into the national discourse. I have been to a lot of the Occupies last year, and I spoke to them and with them. And one of my major issues with the Occupy movement is, why aren't you linking? And, every Occupy is different around in the different communities. But I always said, why aren't you linking the money that the U.S. spends on empire to the lack of social services at home, to the terrible economy that we have at home? Every community I went in, I said, look, at your county or your city has sent X amount of billions of dollars to the U.S. government for these wars. Yet your community is closing schools, your community is closing libraries, your community is, cutting back on social programs for low-income people or no-income people and homeless people. And I really think that the Occupy movement missed a huge opportunity to link these issues together. And so, but it still continues, and it's an ongoing it's an ongoing thing, and I would hope that in the future it would care about not only the economic mess the wars have left us in, but also all the innocent people who are being killed because of that. And it was very unfortunate that we saw these democratic uh, um, organizations swoop in to try to co-opt the message to serve Democrats.
Well, I can vouch for my experience here in New York City with the Occupy movement that they were strident and still are from the very beginning not to allow themselves to be co-opted or conversely to do any co-opting of their own, as opposed to the Tea Party, which was co-opted by the Republicans, and then maybe Occupy could take a lesson from this. They ended up co-opting the Republican Party. If you talk about the Occupy movement right now, it has become more localized. It realizes that feet on the street are very important, that local issues count, such as home foreclosures, credit card abuses, and it's all about the money, and not enough attention, as I agree with you, is being paid to the fact that the money is there, has simply been diverted either by greedy banks to their own pockets or by a government that is insane, building up more of a war machine. So if you had any advice for Occupy, what would that be?
Well, I think what I just basically said, but also in local occupies, working on home foreclosures and things like that, I think are very important. But I think also that we need to start working more on food security. We need to start working more on community gardens, community farms, and there was one in. That is kind of a weird place, but I think it was Berkeley. There was a big community garden in Berkeley that they were going to shut down, and the Occupy movement prevented that from happening. And I mean, this was a huge, huge community garden thing. So I think we need to start working on that kind of food security. I think we need to start working on other kinds of cooperatives. I think that I wrote a book in 2009 after Obama's inauguration, when I was feeling as lonely as a Maytag repairman. I wrote a book called Myth America, the 20 Greatest Myths of the Robber Class and the Case for Revolution. And my revolution is more of a grassroots kind of, local revolution where we do start organizing and working in a cooperative manner to start to take power away from what I call the robber class, what Occupy called the 1%. So, I wrote about doing all this in 2009. So, part of me was very, very thrilled to see the Occupy movement start moving towards that. But to just kind of separate ourselves from the robber class and start, doing this kind of Robin Hood thing, taking money from the rich by supporting each other and refusing to support the rich anymore.
Well, I would use that right now as an excuse and a reason to make a slight detour to invite you to ask our listeners for the financial help that I know is needed in the work that you're doing. Obviously, there's money that's needed to move anything forward, first by you personally, and secondly, for your causes. So provide us some details and links that people can use to pitch in to make your life a little easier.
It's been very difficult fundraising and organizing since Obama's been president. So I appreciate this opportunity. I have a website called Cindy Sheehan Soapbox. It's at cindysheehansoapbox.com. I have a donate link up there. I am raising money right now because I have 2 cases pending against me in federal court. One's for getting arrested at Vandenberg Air Force Base in February, and we have a trial in Santa Barbara next week. I don't have a car, so it's very expensive and very inconvenient to get to Santa Barbara on a good day. And so I'm raising money for that. I also have legal action pending against me because since my son was killed, I've become a war tax resistor, and the IRS finally caught up with me this year, and so they're persecuting me. And so I am raising money for that. I would like to start the year fresh, no matter who is elected president in 2012 next month. I would like to start peace actions again. I hope that people would realize if Obama's elected that, there's no chance that he's not going to be reelected in 2016. So maybe they'll want to start coming out again for peace. And so people can order my books. They can find out more information about my books, which supports me financially. I'll be on a book tour the end of this month. I'll be going to Philadelphia, Ohio, New York, and Long Island on this book tour, so people can find out information about that and come out and support the events that I'm going to be having around this book tour. My latest book's called Revolution, a Love Story, and it's about Hugo Chavez and the Bolivarian Revolution in Venezuela, so it's very timely since Hugo Chavez was just reelected by a huge margin this past Sunday. So yeah, just go to my website. All my archives for my radio show since January of 2009 are on my website. All my articles and, other things that I find interesting. I can be followed on Twitter and Facebook.
Well, Cindy, you have no idea how honored I am to have had you on our program, 15 Minutes of Fact. You've been a hero of mine from the first day I heard of you. And today only makes me proud of you, prouder of you and the work that you do, and the importance of citizen activism. So for those of you who wish to know more about her campaign and her radio show, you heard Cindy Sheehan, Soapbox.com. The Facebook page is Cindy Lee Sheehan, where you can friend her, and connect with her as well on Twitter as Cindy_Sheehan. And in my case, my own early writings on the Occupy movement can be found at my book in progress, writtenoffamerica.com. Follow me on Twitter at writtenoffUSA, and by way of my blogs for the Huffington Post. Cindy, once again, I'd like to thank you and ask you to leave us with one more thought.
I talk to a lot of college students, and I always say that the best thing to do is pick an issue or a cause that doesn't have to be my issue or cause, but think of something outside yourself that you would like to work on. And if you just improve the life of one person that's not yourself, that makes your life have meaning, and that makes your life sacred. So you don't have to devote your life 24/7 to activism like I do, but anything that we do is just another drop in the ocean of compassion and peace and care. So, do that, and just get up every morning like I do, and just think, how can I make this world a better place today, and go forward. And that's the only way we can go, is forward.